In the early 1990s, there was one woman whose smile could sell out a movie theater on opening night. She was the most beloved actress in America. Studios fought over her, directors begged for her, audiences adored her. And then, in what felt like overnight, she was gone. Replaced, mocked, forgotten. The same Hollywood that had built her up buried her alive. This is the story they never told you, the story behind the smile, the fall nobody saw coming, and the comeback that left the entire industry speechless. This is the real Meg Ryan.
Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hyra was born on November 19, 1961, in Fairfield, Connecticut. Not Hollywood, not Beverly Hills, Connecticut. Her father was a math teacher. Her mother was an actress, and that's where the dream first took root. Watching her mother perform planted something inside young Meg that she couldn't explain and couldn't ignore. But life at home wasn't picture perfect. When Meg was just a teenager, her parents divorced, and her mother, Susan, left. Just left. Packed up and walked away from the family. That wound, that early experience of abandonment, would quietly follow Meg Ryan for the rest of her life, shaping every choice she made, every relationship she entered. She studied journalism at NYU, not acting. She was practical, grounded. She wanted a real career with real stability. But the screen had other plans for her. She started doing television commercials to pay for school, then small TV roles, and then in 1981, she got her first real break, a recurring role on the soap opera As the World Turns. Nobody knew it yet, but America was about to meet its sweetheart.
Then came 1986, and a little film called Top Gun. Meg Ryan played Goose's wife, not the lead, not the star, a supporting role. But something about her was impossible to ignore. The camera loved her in a way that's almost impossible to explain. That laugh, that hair, that completely natural girl-next-door energy that felt like nobody you'd ever seen on screen, and yet, somehow, like everyone you'd ever loved. Hollywood noticed. In 1989, she starred in When Harry Met Sally, directed by Rob Reiner, written by Nora Ephron, alongside Billy Crystal. You know the scene. Everybody knows the scene. That deli scene. The scene that became one of the most quoted moments in the history of American romantic comedy. The woman at the next table who looks over and says, "I'll have what she's having." That one scene made Meg Ryan the biggest female comedy star in Hollywood, overnight. The offers poured in, the covers came calling. Time magazine, People magazine, Entertainment Weekly. And then, one after another, the hits kept coming. Sleepless in Seattle, 1993. You've Got Mail, 1998. Two films with Tom Hanks that defined an entire era of American romance. Films that people still watch on rainy Sunday afternoons. Films that made America believe in love again. Meg Ryan wasn't just a movie star, she was a cultural institution. Her haircut, the layered, tousled shag she wore in the mid-90s, became so iconic that women across the entire country walked into salons and simply said, "Give me the Meg Ryan." Let me say that again. Her hair had a name. That is how embedded she was in American culture. By the late 1990s, Meg Ryan was the highest-paid actress in Hollywood. She commanded $15 million per film. She had her pick of every script. Every director wanted her. She was, by every definition, untouchable. And that's exactly when everything began to fall apart.
Meg Ryan had been married since 1991. Her husband, Dennis Quaid, was a fellow Hollywood star. They seemed, from the outside, like the perfect couple. America's sweethearts, together in real life. But the perfect picture was hiding deep cracks. Dennis Quaid had his own battles. He later publicly admitted to struggles with cocaine addiction during their marriage. The relationship, behind closed doors, was fracturing slowly, quietly, and painfully. And then came proof of life. It was 2000. Meg was on location filming with Russell Crowe,
And somewhere between the set and the long days away from home, something happened between them. The affair became public. And America, the same America that had loved Meg Ryan unconditionally for 15 years, turned on her instantly. The tabloids were merciless. Headlines called her a homewrecker, a betrayer, a fraud, the girl next door who had been living a lie. Never mind the full story, never mind the complexity of a marriage that had been quietly breaking apart for years. Never mind that Dennis Quaid himself later admitted to his own infidelities. None of that mattered. In the court of public opinion, Meg Ryan was guilty, and the sentence was brutal. The roles stopped coming. The public goodwill evaporated. Producers who had been calling her agent every week suddenly had nothing available. She made a decision to take on more serious, dramatic roles, to shed the romantic comedy image and show a different range. But audiences didn't want that from her. They felt betrayed. They wanted their Meg Ryan back. And since they couldn't have the version they'd invented in their heads, they decided they wanted nothing at all. One bad review led to another. One box office disappointment led to another. And Hollywood, which is perhaps the most unforgiving town on earth, quietly closed its doors. By the mid-2000s, the woman who had been worth $15 million a film was struggling to get any film made at all. The fall had been total, and it had been fast, and it had been deeply, profoundly unfair.
And so Meg Ryan did something that almost no Hollywood star has the courage to do. She stepped away. Not with a press release, not with a dramatic announcement. She simply got quiet. While her peers were fighting for roles, chasing relevance, doing reality shows and tabloid redemption tours, Meg Ryan disappeared into a life that Hollywood would never understand. She spent more time with her children. She traveled. She read. She started exploring photography and interior design, creative worlds that had nothing to do with whether anyone was watching. She adopted a baby girl from China in 2006, naming her Daisy, and in doing so, she quietly made clear what her real priorities were. But the world wasn't done being cruel. When she appeared at public events, the tabloids focused not on her work, but on her face. Speculation about plastic surgery, cruel before and after comparisons, comment sections filled with strangers who felt entitled to dissect and judge the physical appearance of a woman who had simply had the audacity to age in public. It was a particular kind of cruelty that Hollywood reserves almost exclusively for women. Male actors age, female stars expire. That is the unspoken rule of the industry that had once loved her. For almost a decade, the Hollywood machine moved on without her. But here is what the machine didn't know, and what we should never forget. Meg Ryan was not sitting still. She was rebuilding, quietly, on her own terms, in the dark, before anyone was watching. And that is exactly where the real comeback stories always begin.
The turning point didn't arrive with a bang. It never does. In 2015, Meg Ryan stepped behind the camera for the first time, directing her own film, Ithaca, a quiet literary drama based on William Saroyan's novel. It was a bold move. Critics were watching, some hoping to see her fail, some genuinely curious about what she'd been doing all those years away. And what they found was not a broken actress desperately trying to claw back relevance. What they found was a woman who had used her years of silence to develop a genuine artistic vision, a storyteller who had been watching, learning, and waiting for the right moment. It wasn't a blockbuster. It wasn't supposed to be, but it was hers, entirely, completely, unapologetically hers. And something in the cultural conversation began to quietly shift. In 2022, she returned to acting in What Happens Later, a romantic film she also directed and co-wrote. and suddenly the same media that had spent years writing her off was writing something entirely different. Think pieces about her resilience, articles about her artistic evolution, reconsiderations of her legacy. The internet, which had been so cruel, started a different conversation. A generation of younger women who had grown up watching her films on streaming discovered her for the first time, and they fell in love. Not with the tabloid character, with the real artist. The tide was turning.
Let's be clear about what Meg Ryan's comeback actually looks like. It doesn't look like a blockbuster opening weekend. It doesn't look like a Super Bowl commercial or a franchise reboot. It looks like an artist who reclaimed her own story. She returned to the screen on her own terms. She directed, she wrote, she produced. She chose projects that meant something to her, not projects designed to win back the approval of an industry that had discarded her. And in doing so, she achieved something far more rare than any box office record. She achieved authenticity. In 2023 and into 2024, the cultural re-evaluation of Meg Ryan's career became impossible to ignore. Film critics who had dismissed her as just a rom-com actress began writing serious retrospectives about her work, about the subtle, extraordinary skill it takes to make an audience fall in love with you in 2 hours, about the way she had elevated an entire genre that Hollywood had never taken seriously. Her films, When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, were being re-watched by millions on streaming, not ironically, not nostalgically, but because they are genuinely great films with genuinely great performances. And personally, she found love again. Her relationship with musician John Mellencamp, though not without its chapters, represented a woman who had not let the world's cruelty close her heart. Meg Ryan did not come back the same woman who left. She came back better, deeper, freer. She came back as someone who had survived the worst Hollywood could throw at her and discovered on the other side that she didn't need Hollywood's permission to matter. And that is a victory that no box office number can measure.
I want to talk to you directly for a moment. Because this story, Meg Ryan's story, isn't really about romantic comedies or Hollywood scandals or box office numbers. It's about something that every single person watching this video understands. It's about being defined by your worst moment. It's about having the thing you worked hardest for taken away by forces completely outside your control, by gossip, by timing, by other people's decisions, by the court of public opinion that never asked your side of the story. It's about being told by the world, by the headlines, by the silence of a phone that used to ring, that you are finished, that your story is over, that your best days are behind you. Meg Ryan sat in that silence for years, and instead of letting it kill her, she let it teach her. She learned who she was without the applause. She learned what she actually cared about when nobody was watching. She learned, and this is the most important lesson, that her worth was never actually connected to Hollywood's opinion of her. It never had been, and neither is yours. Your worth is not connected to your employer's opinion of you. Your value is not measured by a follower count or a salary or a title or whether someone who once loved you still does. You are not your worst chapter. You are not the thing they said about you, and you are absolutely not finished. Meg Ryan proved that a woman can disappear from the world's spotlight completely and come back, not just surviving, but finally, truly living. That is available to every single one of us. Meg Ryan went from America's highest-paid actress to Hollywood's forgotten cautionary tale, to an independent filmmaker and artist who answers to absolutely nobody. And she did it without begging, without a public breakdown, without a comeback tour designed to win back people who never deserved her in the first place. She did it quietly, privately, stubbornly, on her own terms. If you've been waiting for a sign that it's not too late, this is it. If there is one person in your life who needs to hear that their comeback is still possible, share this video with them right now. You might not know how much they need it. And if stories like this one, real stories, human stories, stories about people who refuse to be defined by their lowest moment, if those stories matter to you, then subscribe, hit the bell, because every single week we bring you another story that proves the same thing. It is never too late. Your comeback doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to look the way anyone expected. It just needs you to keep going. Keep going.